business is tough.
But I believe there are certain factors that give us all a fighting chance of turning our dreams of success into reality.
I'm on a mission to get inside the minds of some of Britain's most successful entrepreneurs and find out how they made it.
I don't remember really being content. Enough is never enough.
I'll be studying their personalities just as hard as their business models.
I didn't know my father from the age of 2.
In a bid to unearth what drives these diverse characters, I'll also be asking some difficult questions.
We run a pretty tight ship, and
is it tight or is it controlling?
And I'll be finding out how they survived when they faced their biggest challenges.
you're in sinking sand as a businessman.
Totally.
And now you're going to a point where you are about to lose everything you've worked for your entire life.
Yeah.
My goal is to find out if it's our individual DNA that controls our destiny or whether there's a blueprint for success.
Judy, nice to see
Peter. Hi.
Tonight, I'm digging into two businesses whose owners have battled through extreme personal and financial challenges. I'll be meeting Judy Naake, whose pursuit of success nearly cost her her life.
I was so busy and I'd had this lump in my breast.
So you realised you had a lump
Well, yeah, but then...
and you did nothing about it?
No.
And John Timpson, whose 150-year-old family business has survived despite a bitter boardroom battle.
My father was fired.
Fired from the business?
He was even told he had to leave his car in the car park, and he wasn't allowed to visit a shop other than as a customer.
Today, I'm en route to Nottingham for a meeting with Judy Naake, once the queen of fake tan.
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too, Peter. Come on through.
Judy got the European rights to sell St Tropez and turned it into a multi-million-pound success. At its height, her business was turning over £17 million a year and making profits of £7.5 million annually.
The brand meant everything to me. It was my baby, you know, it really was. But there is a time to let it go, and there's a time to say enough. Let someone else run with the ball.
It wasn't just profits that made Judy rich. In 2006, she sold up, netting a piece of a deal worth a reported £70 million. My goal is to uncover the secrets to Judy's success and her reasons for selling up.
It gives a great finish, you can see. It's very fine.
But Judy hasn't hung up her entrepreneurial gloves just yet. Before getting my teeth into her past, I wanted to explore her present. A professional makeup applicator modified for the mass market.
Is this your new or your next big venture?
Yes, it certainly is. And so far...
Because St Tropez is really what you're regarded for.
That's right.
And now you're onto this.
Yes, but our latest venture is this new one. Now, you need a lot of imagination for this, Peter, because this is the very first prototype, OK?
OK.
So just imagine.
No.
So it's going to look like that, and then it'll have a mirror, white LED lights, 6 eyeshadows which will fit in there perfectly, and then we have an airbrush.
Oh, you airbrush yourself?
You airbrush yourself, so you've got your mirror there, yes. So I reckon that's going to be a real winner, and that hopefully will launch us into the big departmental stores.
And is this your St Tropez Mark II?
I hope so. I certainly hope so.
It was fairly lucky to find Judy in Nottingham. The reality is that nowadays she spends a lot of her time at her villa in Tuscany.
It's great to be at this point in my life with money. Money helps a lot. Money doesn't make you happy, certainly not. But what it does do, it gives you choices. You can choose where you want to be and what you want to do, and if you don't want to do it, you don't have to.
But to earn her millions, Judy's worked really hard.
It's funny, they always say the people who work the hardest are the luckiest, and that is absolutely true. But it comes at a price, to be honest.
Chasing the trappings of success almost cost Judy her life.
I never valued my own time or my own health. Sometimes the bad times are really the best times because it makes you rethink. When I'm out here, I just feel totally at peace.
I'm intrigued by Judy's story and desperate to discover how selling a simple self-tanning lotion was make and nearly break for this remarkable entrepreneur. To meet the boss of the next business I'd be exploring meant travelling further north to Manchester. The Timpson name has been a fixture on the nation's high street since 1865. Today the company owns 960 shops and turns over £160 million a year. The company's first store was established by the great-grandfather of current chairman John Timpson.
John?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Peter. Welcome.
How are you?
Welcome to Timpson House.
Thank you very much. This is the HQ.
We don't call it. We don't have an HQ. This is Timpson House, as I called it, because this is here to support the business, not to tell the business what to do. I mean, we wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for the people out there who cut keys, repair shoes, and our photo business. It's all about doing things out there. So the whole idea of this place is to support them and make their life easy out in the shops.
I'm looking forward to seeing the business. You want to show me around?
Well, come on. Yeah.
Thank you.
You'll find this.
You might expect a family-run company steeped in history to be owned and run by a business dinosaur. But within minutes of meeting John, I sensed there was something different about the way he ran things.
The fact that we've always had Timpson on the high street since 1860, there's part of that sets a standard that you want to keep up. But on the other hand, you've got to keep changing, you've got to bring it up to date, and you bring it up to date by putting your own character to it, putting your own, and each generation should do that.
To survive in business for so long is a remarkable test of any company's mettle. And it's clear that if I'm going to unravel John's business ethos, I'll need to delve deep into his company's history.
And what's this area?
Archives.
This looks like Memorabilia City.
It is. Now, you know, I just think the history is so important, and I wouldn't want to lose all this stuff, odd little bits from the past. They've got lessons from them and reminders as to what things were like, and quite often you meet the same problem that you had many years ago, and of course with me that goes over 52 years now.
Just looking at this, I can see, I'm thinking that history to you is clearly very important.
This, I suppose, represents what experience I've got.
And is that a young you?
That's young me, yeah.
With your father?
With my father. And at that time, my job was to buy all the women's shoes because it was a shoe shop business mainly. We just had shoe repairs, was a much smaller part of it. And so I was involved in the retail business. First of all, I started as a shop assistant, but by that time when that picture was taken, I was the shoe buyer.
70-year-old John has been involved in the family business for 50 years.
What does the business mean to me? It's still a source of great pleasure when we open a new shop and it does very well, or I go to a shop that's absolutely fantastic, or I meet someone new who I've not met before, and it still gives me just as much pleasure as the time when I served my first customer when I started in 1960.
4 yellows and 1 pink one.
I know, I knew you were coming, so...
Yeah.
As well as shoe repair and key cutting stores, the Timpson Group owns and operates a locksmith business, specialist watch repair shops, and 2 photo processing companies.
But it also, I think...
Running such a large organisation means John is rarely seen behind his desk.
I visit a lot of shops because it's a way of keeping in touch with the business and connecting with everyone else, but also, actually, it's the way to find out about the business. I suppose I've always liked doing things my way. I discovered years and years ago that the only way to give great customer service is to let the person who serves the customer do it their way. To give them the freedom and trust them to get on with it.
John's energy and enthusiasm for his business is remarkable, but I want to discover where his motivation comes from and just how many ghosts of the company's past still haunt its present.
I really learnt about business by what happened in the business.
And who owns all of the company? Is there different shareholders?
No, it's basically my business. It's our call it a family business, but we've got 100% of the shares.
So you own 100% of it as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow, how have you been able to do that since?
Long story, because I had a lot of bad luck, which turned into, in the end, quite good luck.
I tell you what, I'm going to be very, very intrigued to find out more about that.
Okay.
bit later. That's very intriguing.
I was looking forward to delving into Timpson's turbulent history. But first, it was time to find out how and why Judy started out with her self-tanning lotion.
So Judy, St Tropez. How on earth did you discover St Tropez?
Well, I wouldn't say it was an accident, but it was a product that was offered to me. I'd been in the beauty business for years, and someone I know said, Judy, I've got this fake tan, are you interested? And I said, no, I'm not bothered, I've got fake tans. And he said, well, this one's aloe vera. I said, well, if it's aloe vera, I'll have a look at it. So I read the instructions on the bottle, and I just slapped it on my legs. And I thought, this is going to look like hell in the morning, and I'm glad. And it was amazing. It didn't have the smell, and the tan looked fantastic.
The brainchild of American couple Robin and Tim Gibson, St Tropez started life in sunny California in 1993. Its ingredients included aloe vera, a plant few other products were using. At the same time, Judy was in the UK gaining a reputation as an expert sales agent for some of the country's leading beauty brands. In 1995, Judy and her business partner struck a deal with the Gibsons that gave her exclusive rights to distribute the tanning lotion to salons and spas in the UK and across Europe. But simply having a license is far from a guarantee of success. It was up to Judy to sell her untried product into a competitive market.
Really, self-tanning wasn't fashionable at all until I came along, because people always thought it made you orange. But St Tropez was different, and I showed people how to use it. I started to do training schools, and I did mobile ones, length and breadth of the country, every Sunday and Monday for 18 weekends.
Wow.
And so I would pack up the van the night before, make the sandwiches with my partner, because it was, I wanted to give them lunch and it was cheaper than going to a supermarket. They would pay £25 for the training course. I would do an hour's product knowledge, so they knew how to sell it. Then I would demonstrate a tan.
So they self-tanned each other when they were there?
Yes, so they knew how to sell it. They had the stock because they took it home with them, and they had a tan. So when the customer came in the next morning, they'd say, wow, you look good, where have you been? St Tropez.
Like it. Very, very nice.
Yeah, really, though I say so myself, I think I can take credit for the whole self-tanning market.
Judy certainly knows how to spin a line. Having spotted a gap in the market, she developed a unique way to make her new product popular. In contrast, John Timpson's challenge is to keep his long-established business moving forwards.
Here is what used to be the warehouse, and we've turned into...
So this was a warehouse and turned it into offices?
Yep.
So what's here?
OK, well, great. You can see actually a load of different departments just stood in this one space.
Where's your marketing department?
We don't have one. My marketing is done by the people who serve our customers out in the shops. But every time a customer's served, that creates an impression. Hopefully good enough to say to someone else, come back.
Where's HR?
We don't call it HR. It wouldn't surprise you to know that we don't use that term.
I'm starting to get a feeling that you don't like the names.
Well, it's not, it's not the names. Everyone decides what they want to be called in terms of their job title. Guy over there, who runs what most people would call HR, wanted to be called people support because that's what he's there to do. He's there to help people who are running people within their section of the business.
OK, so you do have HR, you just call it a different name.
Yeah, but we don't run it...
A bit like you have an HQ and you call it Timpson House.
No. There's a good reason for not calling it HR, because our people support doesn't tell people the way... It doesn't dominate the way we run the business. They help us run the business the way we want to run it.
John calls his business style upside-down management, and his employees aren't staff, they're colleagues. I'd be seeing how this works in his stores later, but right now I wanted to ask John about his unusual office furniture and hoped he wouldn't get the hump.
John, the little bit of time I got to know you already, I'm a little bit surprised at the style of the place.
You mean I'm too old and old-fashioned to have designed something like that? What you're trying to say?
No, I wouldn't possibly go with the age thing.
You might well be right, but this is James's James has really been the inspiration behind it.
Is James your son?
James, my son, who is our chief executive and really does all the day-to-day stuff. So we started together. We wanted to create something different. You've got to make it fun. I mean, you want people to enjoy coming to work. I think James has created a very relaxed, friendly, nice, buzzy atmosphere.
To learn that this was the handiwork of company CEO James Timpson made me wonder what other influences John's son has had on the business, and whether he was responsible for this piece of playground apparatus.
I noticed that you had the pole here. Good old fireman's pole.
It is a fireman's pole. You've recognised it.
Have you done it before?
No, I've never done it. But I'm quite happy to. I'll support you.
We've got to have a go, haven't we?
You're on.
Is this the right thing to do?
Yeah. No. Grip with the thighs. That's it. Perfect.
Actually, this is good fun.
Yeah, well, you could have another go.
Whoa! Come on.
Well done.
It's one thing to slide down the greasy pole of business, but climbing up it is very difficult.
Oh, this is one of my first orders at St Tropez. A long time ago, as you can
That's
see.
all the boxes, how they came
Yes,
out.
but I still see the...
In Judy's early days, she was selling primarily to professionals and salons. She needed a breakthrough to get her product into the domestic market. One came in the formidable form of Victoria Beckham.
You can imagine, I was terrified. I got my little suit on, and off I went.
Were you all St Tropez up yourself?
I was, yeah. Well, I used to have one white leg and one brown leg in those days, because if I had two brown legs, people thought that it was real. So I had to leave a white bit. And so Victoria came along and I tanned her, and we'd run out of carrier bags. And I'd saved a nice Perspex one that I'd got from a product launch I'd been to the night before. So we popped the 3 bottles of St Tropez in this bag. And I promise you, it was only because it looked nice. And she went out, and the paps got her, and she was photographed. Yeah, and so it was incredible.
Are you telling me you did that by accident?
Absolutely.
No,
I promise you. No, I promise you. Because I'd had to sign a privacy agreement.
Wow, so you nearly fell out with the Beckhams.
Yeah, and I'd done nothing. But anyway, obviously after that we became, good friends.
And then did that go stratospheric for you?
It did. It was phenomenal. I can't tell you how much I must owe Victoria Beckham. The phones rang off the hook night and day for 6 weeks. It wasn't possible to get a phone call out. We were packing night and day. And my poor old dad, who was 80, I got him packing parcels.
You got your dad packing?
Yeah.
And what did it go up to? What did you get it up to in a year?
Up to about 6 million.
6 million? Wow.
Yeah. It was phenomenal. But I went from just me and a car to 140 staff.
Judy clearly benefited from a bit of good fortune, but I'm a great believer that if you work hard, you can put yourself in a position to capitalise when Lady Luck, or Lady Beckham, comes calling.
Do you see yourself as an entrepreneur businesswoman? Do you see yourself as a saleswoman?
I think I just see myself as a saleswoman, really. I don't know. What can I say? You buy a product, you sell it, and you make a profit. And that's what I've always done.
You say this about yourself, but the reality is, I don't know, I see quite a serious entrepreneur there on the basis of the fact that you didn't just take this product to market. You thought about the branding, how to take it to market. You thought about how to initiate all of the training that's required to go and push this product. Then you kept on in a relentless way that, let's be honest, most people wouldn't be prepared to do, is going that extra mile to create this brand.
Yeah, it's all about going the extra mile, isn't it? If you go that extra mile with client care, it means everything. I think it's all about caring for the people you're doing business with. That sounds corny, but I mean that. I think it's important.
Having propelled her product into the mass market, Judy's next challenge was to stay on top. But I was about to discover something in Judy's past that threatened her business and, more importantly, her life. Having met Timpson's chairman John, it was time for me to catch up with his son James, who's been the company CEO for the past 10 years. James has invited me to Hertfordshire, where he's holding interviews for prospective employees. It sounds straightforward, But today's candidates currently reside here at the Mount, a Category C male-only prison.
Sir James, what are we doing here?
Well, welcome to a prison. We're here today to interview some candidates, so hopefully I can find some superstars to come and work in my shops.
And is this something you do a lot?
Okay, well, we started 10 years ago, just by pure accident. I went round a prison on a visit just to have a look around, really, and the guy showing me around was really good, really liked him. So I slipped him my business card and said, give me a call when you're out, and he did. And he's still with us, and he's brilliant, and so I thought I'd get a few more. And, you know, I've had lots of highs and lows, lots of disaster stories, lots of tears, lots of successes, and we think it works for us.
Is it a publicity stunt?
No, it is not a publicity stunt. You know, not many business bosses would stand here in front of a prison saying, I'm going to go and find people. But I do it because I passionately believe that it's the right thing for my business. And there are lots of really good people in here that no one else will give the opportunity to. So I'm getting the best.
Should we go in and...
Let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Timpson employs just over 2,600 people. Of these, 134 are ex-offenders. The company claims to be the country's biggest recruiter of men and women who've served time. Giving so many ex-offenders a second chance is not a policy everyone will agree with. And James was yet to convince me that this wasn't more about publicity than public service.
Good morning, Brian. I'm James. Hi, this is Peter.
Hi.
I wanted to watch James and the candidates in action.
Hi, James. Hi, I'm James. Hi, grab a seat.
And see for myself whether recruiting ex-offenders works for both of them.
Nice to meet you. Good to see you. I've had a horrible life, unfortunately, been abused, got into drugs, alcohol at an early age, just kept messing up in life.
So at its peak, how much was your drug addiction costing you a week?
£100, £200 a week.
And you couldn't afford that out of your salary, so you were selling drugs to pay for it?
That's right, yeah.
And so when was the last time you took drugs?
15 months ago.
So, and you're feeling that that's different life and...
I'll never go back to it. This is my first prison sentence. I'll never come back. Never.
So tell me about the jobs you've had.
I've had some good jobs. British Telecom, Virgin Media, been a bus driver. In the later stages, I couldn't get up for work because of my drug addiction.
So what's your plan? What's your dream?
To be honest, my dream is to have a secure job.
And what would it mean to you if you got a job with Timpson's?
It mean the world to me, to be honest, and for you to trust me and for me to have a criminal record. But what would be good is for me to be able to get up, go to work, and just get a normal life, like I said, and just be responsible and not to prove to you I can do well. And
cheers.
The job on offer is decent, but had James spotted any potential in the candidates?
Who, out of the three that you saw, who stood out for you?
James, the first guy we interviewed, really liked him, thought he was bright.
Going to give him a job?
I will offer him a job, no problem. And I think he will be a real success. I think he's as good as they get, actually.
What about Dave?
I thought Dave did really well. I'd be tempted to give him a go. He really wanted this job, and it was really, really important to him. This was going to be the opportunity to turn his life around.
And what about Brian? Because I felt that with Brian there was a little bit of a twinkle in your eye.
Yeah, I like to recruit people who understand money, who understand about selling, about serving customers, about ordering things and selling things.
And the fact that he could make a lot of money selling drugs?
Well, I know from experience that some of the best ex-offenders I've taken on are the coke dealers. They're the brightest, quickest, most commercial, and they're the ones that make great cobblers.
Do you ever think, it worries me a little bit, that actually will they go back to that old habit?
I mean, one of the reasons why I interview them and I just look at them in the eye is to work out whether I believe they've changed. But really it's a gut instinct of, am I going to risk my reputation at picking this person and hope that they're not going to let me down? But the thing I like about recruiting people from prison is I know everything about them. They tell me that they have done fraud, whereas I could recruit someone off the street and I don't know what they've done because they could often lie on their CV or just not choose to tell me. So it works. If you were criticised for something you'd done wrong in your earlier life and you never have the opportunity to say sorry or to have another go at something, then it would be a pretty sorry.
I totally agree. I think it could be quite clever recruitment because there's a feeling that they might owe you something. And I wonder, is that tactical?
What I've actually found out is that those I recruit from prison are generally much better than the average colleague I'd recruit off the street because they don't have any other options. And that's why I'm here today, because I want good people to work in my business, because good people are good at serving customers, puts money in the till, makes me money.
I can see that James enjoys turning coke dealers into cobblers, and he's convinced me that he believes his recruitment programme is good for business.
We've got Ivan coming to see us again.
But James and John can try new ideas thanks to the fact that theirs is a long-established business and they own 100% of it. But that's not always been the case. I knew that there was blood on this company's boardroom floor, and I was determined to find out more.
Lovely.
In contrast, Judy's business was much younger and her product completely new, but she also grabbed every opportunity she spotted. I wanted to know where she got her entrepreneurial ethos from, so was taking her back to Nottingham city centre. As a youngster, Judy worked here with her dad, who owned and ran 5 high street stores.
So did you learn how to run a business at school, or do you think that you learned all of that from your dad?
Yeah. Oh, no, they taught you nothing like that at school. No, I learnt all that from Dad. And that was the thing, you see, I was always practical and doing things because I always had Saturday jobs and I used to go down to the shops at night. So yeah, business was the way I was brought up, really. I didn't know anything else.
So you learned how to sell in his stores?
Yeah. Little things that, you know, Dad used to tell me, you know, like you never tell anybody, you know, what your margins are, and you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
Very good.
Yeah, all those things.
And is that where you got it from?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, yes. He was very busy. He was always working, but he was always too busy to invoice them. So
that's not a good thing in business.
It's not a good thing in business.
You need to remember to invoice people you give
so
products to.
I certainly learnt that. He was too kind. He would do a favour to anyone, and you know, he just would leave the invoicing so long that it left it too long, and then people didn't want to pay. So yeah, that was the sort of businessman he was. He was always working. He was too busy to make money, if that makes sense.
But did that teach you something?
It taught me a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
Judy was 4 years old when her dad opened his first shop, selling wallpaper, paint and hardware, here in Nottingham's West End Arcade.
This shop here was one of Dad's. That was a jewellery shop.
So that was the jeweller shop?
As well as a jeweller's, Judy's dad opened a florist's, fruit shop and a restaurant.
Yeah, so you literally can see the...
Yeah,
so we're here?
Yes, that's right. That's where we are. There was a step in the middle, different levels, you see. Yeah.
What were your biggest memories from here?
Biggest memories? Well, I think playing with straightening all the tins and playing with the keys, and then when a customer came in, you know, trying to sell them something. And
did you try and sell them something as well?
Yeah, of course I did.
God, that must be hard. Could you always...
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, Dad always said that. If he was here today, he would say she used to get these trays out and sell, and I used to repair the jewellery as well.
Did he encourage you to sell?
Yes. Well, he couldn't keep me back.
What was your relationship like with your dad?
It was very good. We were very close, obviously. But I always felt that I never was quite good enough. He used to say I had a butterfly mind because I never stuck to anything, which was rich coming from him, really.
Is that what you used to say?
Yeah.
Because you used to flutter all over the place?
Yeah, because I wanted to do lots of things, you see.
And what do you think the biggest thing that rubbed off on you that you got from your dad? If you had to pick one big thing.
You can do anything. You can have anything you want. You can be anything. He used to say there's no such word as can't. And I still say that. You know, I hadn't realised it's one of my sayings, but I say I'm not having that. and I think that's it. It's just a question of I'm not standing for that. You know, there must be a way round. And I think if you have that attitude, you can't go wrong.
Judy obviously learnt some key business lessons from her dad.
He sounds a real character.
He was a character, yes.
And it seems to have rubbed off, which is great.
Maybe, a bit.
But I was going to discover that she took his strong work ethic to a dangerous extreme.
Right, well, here is my office.
Back in Manchester, it was time to explore the turbulent Timpson history. 5 generations of the family have been involved in the business since William Timpson established it in 1865.
That's a historic one of me. That's my father.
Grandfather?
That's my grandfather there. And then great-grandpa is up there. So all the generations that have run the business.
In 1929, founder William died, and in the same year, Timpson became a public company. John worked his way up, joining his father on the board of directors in 1969. But in 1972, John and his dad fell out with the rest of the board, disagreeing on how to run the business and tackle mounting competition. Having only a 22% share of the company, they were vulnerable in what became a bitter boardroom standoff.
What happened was that 3 of the directors called me in, said, could we have a word? And they said, while we're talking here, the others are upstairs asking your father to leave.
What?
And that was it. My father was fired.
Fired from the business?
He was even told he had to leave his car in the car park, and he wasn't allowed to visit a shop other than as a customer. It was quite nasty stuff.
And that must have felt like he's been
it just took a whole bit out of his life. I mean, it was the family business created by his grandfather and developed by his father that suddenly had disappeared.
How has that shaped the way that you do business today?
It certainly taught me a lot about what you have to do to control a business. The difference between 0 and 50% of shareholding and between 50 and 100%. But also, it taught me always to try and make sure that no one can tell me what to do.
After the boardroom coup, Timpson was taken over by a large retail group and fell out of the family's hands. But by 1975, the company was in trouble and John was asked to return to Timpson as managing director. John got his part of the business back on track, but the group continued to struggle. Eventually, though, John got an opportunity to stage a management buyout.
This is 1982. I'd never heard of a management buyout. Very few people had in those days.
How did you raise the money?
I sold on a leaseback arrangement £30 million worth of freeholds that my grandfather had bought in the 1930s and were attached to this business. So I used the property and obviously geared up the leases basically to pay for the business. And then obviously I remembered the boardroom row, and I made absolutely certain, however it got carved up, I got more than 50%. And it was a family business again.
John had bought the company back into his family's hands. But that wasn't the end of his battle. He now needed to change the way it did business.
I got to the stage I realised I couldn't open another shoe shop and make money out of it. I came to this was probably the most emotional decision I had to take, that we had to sell the shoe shops. So I'd suddenly, having gone all this magic thing of buying it back, making a family business, the thing that my great-grandfather had started, I then had to sell it, which we were able to do, which was the right thing to do. Now I can detach myself. I kept telling myself it wasn't, because emotionally it wasn't the right thing. But I kept the shoe repair bit. And then 4 years later, I bought all the other shareholders or directors out of their shares by mortgaging the house, and I've been 100% owner of the business ever since 1991.
Going forward, owning 100%, will you ever sell again?
The last thing I want is... the whole way we run our business depends on us being able to do it our way. I don't want to do it anyone else's way. I don't want anyone else telling us what to do. That means no shareholders, and actually it means no borrowings from the bank either. And then they ask, well, what's your exit? And I think they're quite shocked when I say, well, I'm going to die.
So your exit is your coffin?
Yeah, as far as the business is concerned. But that's not the exit for the business, because the business carries on as a family business, because that's got to be, going back to what happened in the boardroom, what happened with my great-grandfather, The challenge is not only to create a business which we're proud of, but also a business that can go through the generations.
It's a remarkable story, one that's helped me understand why John's determined that his company's history is never forgotten. Owning all of the business means that John and James can now run it the way that they want to. But I still have questions about the company's future and whether it can survive in a competitive environment. I'd already delved into Judy's business history, so it was time to talk about the crisis she'd faced in her personal life. Judy had invited me to Maggie's Cancer Care Centre in Nottingham, an institution extremely close to her heart.
So Judy, what does this place mean to you, and how did you come to get involved?
Well, I became involved some time ago because I was diagnosed with breast cancer in October 2002 and then October 2003.
I love the way you just sort of almost smiley sort of skirt over the fact that in 2002 you had cancer.
Well, what to tell? I mean, I hadn't been feeling well for quite a while, actually. But because I was working so hard, it was at the height of St Tropez. And so I was so busy, and I'd had this lump in my breast, and I said, well, you know...
Well, so you realised you had a lump?
Well, yeah, but then...
And you did nothing about it?
No. How stupid could I be? But, you know...
And how bad was it?
It was as bad as it gets, because it was grade 4. And then the following year, in the July I was fine. By the October, it was grade 4 again in the other breast. That was a bit scary. Didn't like that one.
Was it because you're just too busy working?
I was too busy working. I was too busy to listen to my body.
So you had to go through the whole chemotherapy?
I had a mastectomy, chemotherapy and radiotherapy the first time. And then the second time a year later, I had to have another mastectomy.
And all clear now?
Yes. How lucky am I?
So you really have and did push it to the limit, didn't you?
Absolutely. And in fact, my oncologist, who I know quite well now because of Maggie's, you know, he said to me, less than a year ago, we didn't think he'd make it, you know. Really? Yeah. So, you know, you realise, because I didn't dare ask what grade 4 was until I'd sort of come out of the first one. And I said, well, what's grade 5? And they said, well, Judy, there isn't one. 4's as bad as it can get. It was a grim time.
And at what point did you decide then to sell the business? Was this the main reason to say,
that was the catalyst?
Get out?
Yes, it was. There was competition coming along. And you know that moment that when you're really at the top, but people are snapping at your heels, and it's going to get harder. So the timing was right financially to sell out. I'd taken the business as far as I possibly could within the UK. And it wasn't possible for me to go out to do the rest of the world or the rest of Europe, which it required. And then after this illness, it just was ridiculous. And, you know, life's not a rehearsal, and you're a long time dead.
Between 1995 and 2006, Judy had gone from travelling saleswoman to head of an operation employing 140 people and turning over £17 million a year. But after being diagnosed with cancer twice, Judy made the life-changing decision to sell up. With Judy selling up, the product's American owners also opted out and sold St Tropez to a private equity firm for a reported £70 million.
How did you then handle the negotiations? How did you deal with the sale of the business?
Well, I think, to be truthful, it was my business partner that did most of the negotiation because I was really poorly at the time. But of course, I like to read all the documents and read all the small print. So I used to do that. But the stressful stuff, I'm sure I didn't know a lot about.
And in terms of the characters that you were negotiating with,
yes,
how did that dynamic work? Because they were Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's right. And because they were Jehovah's Witnesses, it meant that ethics were very important. So they couldn't screw anyone over in business. So what we did, because we remember we only had the distribution, so really we had nothing to sell. So they could have just sold it on, and we would have still been distributors and had nothing. But they said, no, we split everything straight down the middle, 50-50 between, UK and America, which was very fair.
And did it put things into perspective? Because
Absolutely.
you were clearly very relentless, weren't you?
I was.
Whatever you did, you didn't do things in small measure, did you?
No, it absolutely put things in perspective. And what I try not to have in my life now is stress. I just don't want it. So I just sort it.
So stress, conflict...
It's not worth it. Because at the end of the day, it blows up, it blows back down, and it all goes on the same, doesn't it?
Judy's been incredibly lucky. St Tropez American owners were unusually generous to split the proceeds from the company's sale. And surviving cancer, despite pushing herself to the limit, is remarkable. John Timpson doesn't have to answer to anyone else when it comes to running the business. Thanks to lessons he's learned from history, he owns 100% of his company and can do whatever he likes to keep it competitive. Earlier, he'd stressed that his staff, or as he calls them, colleagues, were more important than him and his team at the company's Manchester base.
John, how are you?
Very good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hi.
This is it?
Yep.
Amongst other benefits, he also gives these colleagues their birthdays off and lets them use the company's holiday homes. I wanted to find out if all of these things were just management gimmicks or a genuinely fresh approach to running a business.
You've got this philosophy about running a business, and you call it upside-down management.
That's right.
What's that all about? Why? Is it a bit of a marketing
No,
pitch?
it's not.
Is it a real business
initiative? It started for a really very good reason. That it's very clear in our business to be the best at what we do, to compete with anyone else doing what we do. We had to be very good at what we do and very good at looking after customers. If you want to give really fantastic service, the way to do it is to give the people who serve the customers, the colleagues in the branch, the freedom to do it their way. They can settle the complaints and they can even change prices. They can do whatever's right to satisfy that customer.
Okay. So, but in reality, it's just a little bit of a quirky name then, because the reality is, in modern day business, people in stores, managers, they take responsibility, don't they? They'll take responsibility for the stock. If they need to move stock out, I think they do. I know a lot of retailers that do take responsibility of the stock that they've got out there. They're
the
pushed
major
by their
difference
branch.
between what happens in one of our shops and most multiples on the high street is our colleagues actually order their own stock. It makes a big difference to us because I believe that our colleagues understand their business much better than the head office, and certainly much better than the computer at head office. The technology actually gets in the way of the business.
And what about the most important technology, which is reporting your sales numbers and all the money you're making?
No, I don't think that. You might think that's important, but there's no computer connection between our tills and the head office. Our till is an adding machine on the top and a drawer on the bottom.
Wow.
Simple as that.
You're clearly going to be tracking sales numbers. You're going to be focusing the business against an operating budget, I'm assuming, or an annual operating plan. No?
Not really bothered about budgets, to be honest. I look against last year is much better measure. Budgets, we leave our finance department to we have a budget, but that's really between them and the bank.
You really are working in the 1920s then?
I think I'm probably in the 2020s plus because it's working so well for us. I'm interested in forecasts. I want to know what what's happening to the cash, what the forecast for the business is going to be. But budgets are not the same as forecasts. I don't take much notice of what best practice is meant to be. What everyone else thinks is that I'm going to run the business the way I want to run the business.
I've kind of realised, and I've got that feeling.
Yeah.
John and I were poles apart on how to monitor the finances of a business, but he made around £16 million worth of profit last year, so at least we did agree on one thing.
I'm pleased to see that you haven't run an upside-down business policy on the way that you make money.
John seems to shrug off the pressure of running a big family business, but I couldn't help feeling that he doesn't always find it easy. Back in Nottingham, it was time to catch up with Judy and her son Lloyd.
Come meet my son Lloyd, Peter.
This is Lloyd.
This is Lloyd.
Hi.
Peter, good to
Peter,
meet you.
how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Lloyd is in charge of Judy's latest makeup venture. I wondered whether she's passed any entrepreneurial genes onto Lloyd and whether they always saw eye to eye.
So your mum did well with St Tropez.
I'm trying to copy everything that she's done, really.
Literally?
Literally, yeah, exactly.
Well, there's no point in rewriting the book, is there? If she can make all this money, you may as well do it.
Saw how she did it, so there's no reason why it can't be done again.
Are you doing anything different to put your little slant on it?
Well, I think probably the difference between myself and my mother is that this one can sell snow to the Eskimos. She's never happier than when she's selling. In fact, actually, I've seen her in people coming for an interview for a job with her, and she's the one that does the selling.
And are you the boss, or is she the boss?
Well, I'm not sure what she'd say. I'd say I'm the boss, but maybe I pretend to be the boss.
Who's the boss?
No, he definitely is the boss. He's got to make his own mistakes, but...
Do you let him?
Yeah, sometimes, but it's a difficult one because it's his business, it really is his, and it's no good if I, keep sticking my nose in. It's not fair.
So, Judy, how much have you put into this business so far?
I think about $500,000, but I'm not sure exactly, but about that.
Wow. Good mum to have, huh?
Yeah, fantastic. No, I'm very lucky. But I'll always know that even when I succeed, hopefully, it will be because she gave me a step up. I've always had that safety net underneath. If I can't pay the staff's wages, I can pick the phone up and say, can you help me out? I can't pay the staff's wages.
Lend us a fiver.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
everybody needs that little bit of luck.
Well, I think so. I mean, it's great, isn't it, that I think that I can do that for him.
Honestly, it's far easier to borrow a large chunk of money off her than a fiver. If you borrow a fiver off her, it's the hardest thing in the world. You spend 10 minutes trying to get it out of her and justify why you need this £5. But if you need a big chunk of money, she's great.
It's business, isn't it?
I'm really pleased you told me that. We should have a business chat later.
You should.
Well, I like it.
In financial terms, Judy's given Lloyd a healthy but sensible head start. But her biggest assets are the lessons she's learnt from her dad and those from her own business past. As well as the stress of running a big business, John Timpson has the weight of family history to manage. I wondered how he handles pressure. I was about to get a revealing insight from his wife of 45 years, Alex.
What first attracted you to John?
Well, not very much, really.
And was it love at first sight?
Yeah, must have been, sort of vaguely. I mean, what...
I've never asked you that question.
No, when you've just been asked it. Well, certainly...
No. No, it's, for me, it was something that grew.
And when John was going through his... Because you have had tough times.
We have had tough times, yes. Well, I mean, you talked about your stress, have you?
No, I haven't talked about that.
Yeah. Well, John
hasn't prized that out of me.
No, well, I'm going to tell you. John suffers with stress, and sometimes he can be really quite unwell.
I mean, basically, you either go, you suddenly find you're going through a period of being very tensed up or very miserable, one or the other. And you don't want to, you stop doing things, don't you? You don't want to go out, you don't want to meet people. So you can't function the same sort of way, but everything's turning over in your mind all the time.
But you always feel that, you're useless, you've never done anything that's any good.
You actually find yourself looking at other people.
Yeah, so it's
on the
pressure,
television,
it's
or
a form of depression.
Saying, I wish I was like them because they're so capable.
Yeah.
You worry about things that don't matter.
Have you ever felt suicidal?
No.
As a result of
I've never got that far, but I mean, it is a question. It's the sort of first question you're asked when you go to the doctor. I mean, tips for anyone who gets in that situation: first, talk about it. I mean, this is another area where Alex has given great, fantastic support. Talk to Alex, talk to Christine, my PA, because she's got to live with me more than most, and go to the doctor and do what they say.
John's personal revelation is brave, but having someone like Alex at his side has helped him get through the stressful periods when he's feeling the strain most. Over the course of their marriage, John and Alex have had 3 children of their own, adopted 2 and fostered over 90 others. The Timpsons also dedicate time, advice and raise funds for an adoption charity.
There are far too many takers in this world. We need to have more givers. It really used to get a buzz from it. I used to get a real buzz, knowing that I'd hopefully done something really well. And
I can't tell you how refreshing that is in a pretty capitalist society. That it's nice to meet people that do that, because
it shows it's possible, isn't it, to do that as well as have a very successful business.
Absolutely.
You know, you can be nice and make money. I mean, it has added an awful lot to the business, as well as, you know, by bringing so many people into our lives, I've learnt a lot about people generally, people I probably wouldn't have met in the same sort of way. And therefore, I mean, I've learnt from that, probably more than anything, how important it is for us to be available to help people, not just in work and do a better job at work, but if we can help them with the rest of their life, that makes a difference to how they perform at work.
I can see now that John's determination to make sure the people working in his shops are central to the business is founded upon his history of caring for and understanding others. But he's not just being kind, he sees it as a clear business advantage. As well as her business with Lloyd, Judy currently has investments in a range of skincare products, a TV company and a range of babywear. For our final conversation, I wanted to know why, having become a millionaire and survived a life-threatening health scare, she hasn't simply retired.
One of the things that you said when we were talking before was that you really took it right to the limit, and I mean, it nearly cost you your life. And now you wanted to sort of relax, de-stress, and now it seems like you're right back in the middle of it all again.
Yeah, because I've done that, haven't I? I've had the relaxing time, and I just love to work. I love the thrill of business. I can't help myself. If I'm not doing business, what will I be doing? I can't lie on the beach all day, can I? Or, you know, be a lady that lunches. Not all the time, anyway.
So it's in you. Is that what you're saying?
It
You
absolutely
just can't
is.
stop.
I can't. No. I think it keeps me young. You know, I just love it.
And where do you see Lloyd in 5 years' time?
Well, I hope by then he'll be fully self-sufficient and actually making money.
And what about if he comes to you in 8 months and says, Mum, I was only ever really doing this for you because I want to make you proud. What would you do?
What would I do? Well, I'd probably say, give it to me and I'll run with the ball.
So you come back into the business?
Well, I'd have to, wouldn't I? That's sort of all I know, really.
Judy's a serial entrepreneur. From her youth working with her dad and taking the self-tanning market by storm, to today's company with her son, she's shown that business is in her blood. For my final meeting with John, I travelled back to Manchester, where he was relaxing away from the business. So far, we'd discussed his company's past and present, so it was time to tackle its future.
John, the business has been around for over 100 years now.
Yep.
But what does the next 100 years
Well, 100's too far to look at.
What does the future hold, then?
One thing's certain, it won't be the same. Because the businesses that have disappeared, and we've seen enough disappearing on the high street recently, almost all of them, they haven't changed, they haven't kept up to date. You have to keep changing your business. You never, ever can be satisfied. I think every entrepreneur to be successful has got to be pretty paranoid. And if you're not worried, if you're not ever thinking, what can I do better, then sooner or later it's going to go worse.
But isn't that time, I'll throw this out there then, it's a good point, isn't that time looming? You can buy shoes today for £12, £15,
No, it's been
£25. If your shoes then wear out, don't you throw them away now and rather than come to you?
That's been the case for a very long time, that there's a big chunk of the market that actually sells shoes at about the same price as we repair them. But the market which is available to us actually has got bigger. It surprised me. The business that we have now doesn't rely on shoe repairs. In fact, key cutting is just about the same turnover as shoe repairs, and we've got a fast-growing watch repair business.
But it's interesting timing, isn't it? Because you've got a photographic business now. You're hearing more and more pressure on the high street. How are you going to survive?
I suppose the biggest, it's not diversification, but probably the biggest change that is happening to our business at the moment is that most of our new shops are off the high street and are connected to supermarkets. Because it must be better to continue to do what you know well and do it better than to start to think you're going to be clever enough to run someone else's business.
And I don't think you're going to retire. I think you're just going to carry on. But is James the right man to carry on the legacy?
I would think that we are unbelievably lucky. What do we have? We had 300 and something shops when he took it on. We were making profits of somewhere around 3 million. We will make at the equivalent level 16 million this year, and we'll get through 1,000 shops. I guess, probably the best bit of upside-down management that I've done is handing over to James.
If you really did take a full-on back seat, what's the biggest mistake James could make in running the business?
The biggest risk is that we lose the culture, that we stop doing the things, what we call the magic dust, that really make the difference. The birthdays off and the holiday homes, and the upside-down management thing. If you hired a manager from outside, you wouldn't do it that way. And I think the business would lose an awful lot very quickly if it was run in a more conventional sort of way.
John and Judy have both achieved success because they've done things their own way. Their individual approaches to business were shaped as they built on the lessons learnt from their fathers and grandfathers.
I always knew that I was going to be successful at something, because my father always said, Judy, you can do anything if you want. There's no such word as can't. So, of course, for me, I took that as gospel.
Today, John and Judy are passing their skills on to their children.
James isn't like me. I mean, you ask people in the business and they'll recognise that. He's a lot quicker and tougher and also, more ambitious than I ever was.
And John knows that to secure success in the future, you have to respect the next generation.
I want him to learn the lessons from what I got wrong and hopefully learn some of the things I got right. But then I'd wanted him to do it his way. Because if a family business is going to survive, it's got to have someone in each generation who's really got it in their own right.
And after taking things to an extreme, Judy's learnt that success should not be achieved at any cost.
Would I change anything about my journey? No, not really. Only abusing my own body, I think. I'm very happy with what I've got. I've got my son, I've got a nice home, I have, touch wood, my health. What more can a girl want?
Over the course of this series, I've met PR-savvy plumbers and market traders who've made money when the odds seemed stacked against them.
Hello again.
Hi.
I've spent time with businessmen and women with strong ethics and values, as well as entrepreneurs who have learned the secrets of success the hard way. If you want to hear more from these inspiring individuals, go to bbc.co.uk/Peter Jones Meets.